Hello, friends. Welcome to Laws and Scriptures 360. So, in today's video, I'm going to be shedding light on the latest Nigerian tax laws published in the official gazette. Now, these new tax laws were enacted on the 26th of June 2025. Some of us will be conversant with the enactment of these laws and probably would have heard a few things about the provisions of these laws. I've seen a lot of narratives out there, and these narratives about the provisions of these laws have caused a lot of Nigerians to panic. Everyone is panicking about the outcome of these laws when they start implementing them. In fact, recently, a client of mine contacted me to confirm if the tax identification number that was issued to his company when I registered the company is still the same tax identification number that is applicable to him. That he heard that without TIN, that's tax identification number, he won't be able to access the money in his account by January 2026. And I had to assure him that that is not the case. You know, there are lots of narratives out there. People are selling different things about the content of these new laws, which is why I have decided to enlighten us about the provisions of these new laws and, the expectations, what we should expect and what is expected of us from the laws. Some other people are like wondering, does this law apply to me? And some people are rejoicing that, I'm not in Nigeria, so I'm not going to, it's not my business, it doesn't concern me and all. Now, these laws, these new tax laws are applicable to every Nigerian living in Nigeria. Every Nigerian living in the diaspora that have either businesses running in Nigeria, they have a functional bank account running in Nigeria. These laws apply to them. It applies to foreigners living in Nigeria that have businesses in Nigeria. It applies to foreigners who live in the diaspora but have businesses running in Nigeria. And what else? I think that's just about it. So these are the people that these laws apply to. So you might be living outside Nigeria and you're in Nigeria and you have your bank account in Nigeria. You're just relaxed and feigning less concerned that the law does not apply to you. Right there, it applies to you. Hence, the need for you to know what the provisions of these laws are and what you should expect when they are implemented. And as against the panic all over the place about the provisions of these laws, the essence of these new laws is not to place hardship on taxpayers, but to streamline revenue administration, enhance compliance, because for a very long time, Nigerian tax laws seem uncoordinated. There are so many, and when you want to apply some of them, it looks like it's so cumbersome and difficult to apply. So when I go into discussing the provisions of these laws, you would agree with me that most of these laws consolidated some of all these small tax laws and, unified them in a document or in a statute for easy application. So the essence is to just streamline, not to make you panic or make you suffer, but to make it easy for the government to receive or to get revenue from taxes, makes administration easy, it makes compliance easy, and it strengthens intergovernmental coordination and repositions the tax system for growth. That's just the essence. It's not to make you get scared or make it difficult for you to access your monies in the banks and all the rest of the narratives that are selling out there. Now, because of time, I won't be able to exhaust all these laws in today's video. So we're going to be having follow-up videos in terms of episodes so that I'll be able to, because there are about 4 laws, so that I'll be able to elaborate on each of them so that all of us will understand what we should do and when they take effect. Sorry, excuse me. So, if you've not subscribed to this channel, I want to urge you to please subscribe. And if you've subscribed, you click on the notification button so that after this episode, you'll be notified when subsequent episodes are up to follow up. It's very important. Remember, we said ignorance of the law is not an excuse for you to break any of these laws, because there are penalties for breach of these laws. There are penalties. If you breach or if you break any of them, if you're found defaulting in any of them, there are penalties, great penalties. So it would be nice for you to know what is in there and for you to know the truth and not some lies all over the internet. So that being said, today we're going to look at the Nigerian Tax Act 2025. Now, the new tax laws are divided into 4. There are 4 laws. There are 4 tax laws. And they are the Nigerian Tax Act, that's the NTA 2025. The Nigerian Tax Administration Act 2025, that's the NTAA. Just in case you see these acronyms, just so that you would know which applies to which. If you see NTA, it's Nigerian Tax Act 2025, and NTAA, Nigerian Tax Administration Act 2025. Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Act 2025, NRSEA. And then the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Act 2025, JRBEA. So these are the 4 laws we are going to discuss in each of the episodes. So, but for today, I'm going to be looking at the Nigerian Tax Act 2025 because it covers some aspects of corporate taxes and personal income taxes and value added tax act. So it concerns us much more. So that's why I'm going to be taking it first. So this act takes effect. It becomes effective in January 2026. Now, this act consolidates the Companies Income Tax Act. It also has in it Personal Income Tax Act, the Capital Gains Tax Act, the Value Added Tax Act, and the Stamp Duties Act. So these are the acts. Before now, all these acts I just mentioned here, they were in different documents. So if you want to apply any of them, you now go and start searching, and it's quite difficult. But when you get the Nigerian Tax Act 2025, you find all these acts in there, their applicability, their enforcement, and all the rest of them. So this Nigerian Tax Act consolidates all these single acts and unify them into a single statute called Nigerian Tax Act 2025. Now, under this act, the corporate income tax payments are very clear and realistic, just in case you have a company running in Nigeria. Now, for example, before now, every company in Nigeria were expected to pay tax under the Capital Gains Tax Act and the Companies Income Tax Act. Every company, both small companies and big companies, were expected to pay tax of one form or the other. But under this tax now, this new tax act, the Nigerian Tax Act 2025, small companies are now exempted from paying tax. The act went further to explain or to define what companies can be termed small. Now, these companies that are called small companies are companies with annual turnover of 50 million naira or less. So if your company has an annual turnover, whether it's a business name or company, as far as it's a registered entity under the Companies and Allied Matters Act, carrying on business in Nigeria, if your annual turnover is 50 million or less, you are exempted from paying any form of tax under this Nigerian Tax Act 2025. Furthermore, other companies are now charged, depending on their annual turnover, they are now charged between 0 to 30%. They are further charged 4% development levy on accessible profits. So this accessible profits payment now covers for the small tax we pay on education, IT levy, and the rest. So once the company pays 4%, once the company pays 4% development levy on accessible profit, it covers for all the other small petty tax. Now, for multinational group of companies that are operational too in Nigeria, maybe they have a branch in Nigeria, they are expected to pay a minimum effective tax rate, ETR, of 15% in line with the global tax reforms. So they are expected to pay 15% tax. They are expected to pay 15% effective tax rate. The multinational group of companies that are expected to pay the ETR, that's the minimum effective tax rate, are multinational group of companies with consolidated global turnover. Consolidated, that means putting together all the proceeds of their turnover all over the world. Yeah, that's what they mean by consolidated global turnover. So they are the multinational companies with a consolidated global turnover of 750 million euros, or Nigerian companies with, that's Nigerian multinational companies with turnover exceeding 50 billion naira. That's consolidated all over the world. All their companies scattered all over the world. The proceeds of their turnover would amount to, annually, would not exceed 50 billion naira for Nigerian multinational companies, and for foreign multinational companies 750 million euros. So, however, for want of time, I'm going to stop here in this video. I'll still continue with the Nigerian Tax Act in my next video. We're going to be discussing the capital gains tax, the personal income tax, the value added tax in the next episode. So I'd like you. We're also going to be talking about the fossil fuel, the new charges, the tax rates applicable to fossils fuels purchase. And then finally, we're going to be talking about tax incentives and release before we talk about the next um, tax law. So I'd like you to just hang in there. In our next episode, will wrap this up. We're also going to talk about tax reliefs too for other businesses and services. There are lots of goodies actually in this tax act. So I'd like you to look out for the next episode. Thank you very much for having me, and enjoy the rest of your day.